people just shelling out the dosh for some expensive wee?
Yep, or indeed, expensive diarrhea.
Ooh, oh God.
Oh, blimey.
I can't believe what I've just seen. Why were her feet so mucky? Do we actually need to detox? Or is this whole kind of detox thing, is it just fundamentally flawed?
Sure. So I'm not sure I buy into the idea of sticking it where the sun doesn't shine, as it were.
I'm not planning on it,
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Strange Health from the Conversation. And this is the show where we're going to explore all the weird and wonderful things that your body gets up to. We're going to decode the science behind the wellness trends, and we're going to do that with the help of researchers who study this stuff for a living. I'm Katie Edwards, and I'm the health and medicine editor at The Conversation. That's an independent source of news and analysis, and it's powered by academics and journalists, and we work together to make evidence as accessible as possible. Now, I'm here with my mate Dan, who I've worked with loads. I turn to him for advice and guidance on all the odd and strange things that I need to know about for my job. This is Dan Baumgardt, everybody.
Hey, I'm Dan Baumgardt, and I'm a lecturer in health and life sciences at the University of Bristol, and I also work as a GP there in the city of Bristol too. Now, Katie and I have known each other for a while, as she said, and we've worked together on over 60 articles for The Conversation, and we both share this morbid fascination with the intricacies and improbabilities and also impossibilities of the human body and the feats that it's capable of. And we're here, as I said, to decode that science and try and find out which part of it belongs in a realm of reality and which needs to be confined to the dustbin or to books of myths and not legends.
So, Dan, in this episode of Strange Health, we're talking about detoxing because it's January and everybody's eaten too much, they've drunk too much, they've slept badly, they've had too much time with the family. Social media is now aggressively and sometimes a bit rudely advertising, green juices, charcoal powders, and something called a 7-day liver reset. But they're all promising the same thing. They're all saying that they'll detox, remove all the toxins from our bodies and make us purer. But if these products really did purge our bodies of harmful toxins, then there'd be loads less illness, wouldn't there? And if they don't work, aren't people just shelling out the dosh for some expensive wee?
Yep, or indeed, expensive diarrhea.
Oh, you've got to go there, haven't you, Dan?
I know, sorry, lowering the standard from the word go, promise.
I was staying up there for the viewers, and there you are.
You mean to carry on, Katie?
Well, I know that. So every week we're going to be looking at some examples of what we're talking about. So today I've got a couple of videos. Should we have a look at them, Dan? Yeah,
let's have a look. And this is sort of some of the current trends that are out there at the moment.
Yeah.
One of the best things you can do to support and promote a healthy liver is to drink fresh squeezed beet juice over an extended period of time.
So this is a woman, very, very toned in workout wear, all matching, and she's wearing a face mask, and that all seems to mean that she's very healthy, and now she's just putting a load of beetroot, celery and carrots to make a smoothie. I mean, she's not really doing a lot, is she? For a detox. Like, she's just putting a few veg into a blender, isn't she?
Yeah, and I mean, on the face of things, or the Hannibal Lecter face of things, as we can see here, it's sort of like beetroot's impossibly good for you. I mean, I'm quite a fan of beetroot. I used to loathe it as a kid, but now I'm sort of found ways in which I can enjoy it. But at the same time, I think that, there's lots of things within, juicing beetroot, juicing other vegetables and stuff like that, that's not going to do your body any harm. Perhaps boost up those antioxidants and boost up the nutrients that your body is longing for, especially if you haven't had a particularly good diet before. But is it going to change things within the space of 24 hours or 48 hours for you? It needs sustainability more than anything else. I think that's the problem with a lot of these detox fads and detox diets. Are you going to stick to them for a long period of time, or come first week of January, yeah, back to where you were before? Have you tried any detoxes yourself?
Yeah, I have. But I felt rubbish. They made me feel terrible.
Yeah.
I got a banging headache from them.
Yeah. And I think that's the general gist. They're producing all these symptoms like headache and fatigue and all these other bits and pieces, like, real lethargy, an inability to get out of bed in the morning. My detox experiences involved, 2 very non-sustainable periods in my life where I had one of them was a fruit and vegetable based diet. Another one involved lots of juicing and teas. And I can't remember what prompted me to do it in the first place. It remains unclear to this day whether it was sort of temporary insanity or that sort of feeling of virtuosity you get after New Year, where you think, my body is a temple and a temple it will be.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I just felt a bit rough when I did it. I wasn't too worried about my body being a temple. And Dan, I've seen loads of people trying to detox through the feet. Like I've seen them putting onion rings, not them battered ones, but, fresh onions on the bottom of the feet. I've seen them, doing these ionized foot baths where you just put your feet in water and apparently it detoxes them. And then there's these like foot pads. And I think we've got an example of like these foot patches that you stick on your feet.
Oh, go for it. Let's have a look.
We're on day 5 of these foot detoxing pads, and I'm not going to explain it other than the fact that I sleep like an actual baby. Believe it or not, the color on this is actually drastically lighter than the first day, so it's definitely pulling stuff out. Now, before you come for me about that, because I know so many people are so skeptical about it, I don't even care, because I got the good night ones. They have like magnesium and all that stuff in it, and the way that I'm sleeping, I'm not even going to ask questions, okay? But like, this is disgusting. And somebody please explain to me why it's wet, okay? I do not sweat, so you cannot use that as an excuse. Explain to me why it's wet. I don't even know. The one thing that I do know is this is absolutely disgusting. This is what the bag looks like. It's got like magnesium, zeolite, lavender, chamomile.
Feel a bit sick, Katie, don't you?
I can't believe what I've just seen. I can't believe what I've just seen. Why were her feet so mucky? What happened there? She put them pads on and they'd got a bit of magnesium in them. They'd got a bit of lavender, chamomile. They were supposed to make her sleep better. She pulled them off and they were wet and filthy. What's that about?
Something a bit homeopathic. I can't explain that because, the bottoms of the soles of our feet is where you would find the thickest skin possible. So to, I think, make the claim that you can exude toxins from the skin of your feet is probably the most unlikely thing that I could come across, anatomically speaking. As I say, just simply because the skin on your feet is so thick. Perhaps if it would come off elsewhere, if you were thinking about other parts of the skin, but even then, the minimal amounts of toxins that leave your body via your skin and via dissolved in sweat is absolutely minimal, which is why I think any detox product which has got the label sweat it out, sweat those toxins out, don't believe it, because only very, very much trace amounts, and there's nothing that can sort of change that. It's mostly your kidneys and your liver that allow you to get rid of the products of metabolic waste and toxins from your body.
So do you know, I know you're into your case studies. Do you know of any like weird case studies to do with detox?
Well, actually I have. And there's, everybody assumes that detox is something that's been within our lives over the last sort of couple of years or maybe even a decade or two. But actually it goes all the way back to donkeys years ago. It goes back to the times of bloodletting and the times of King Charles II and George Washington, who were bled. It was the belief that at that time there was an excess of bad humours. When we go back to the days of the sort of like the humours of the body, like bile and phlegm and blood, and to remove blood either by taking it away or popping a couple of those leeches on your back or your sides to take blood away was beneficial. Of course, we know now that blood is absolutely essential. The circulation is absolutely essential to keeping us healthy. And so, unfortunately, it promptly ended the lives of people like King Charles II and Queen Anne and all this quackery and poor old George Washington himself. But then other things have been marketed. So things like mercury and arsenic were used to treat things like syphilis and other bodily afflictions, actually before they found out it's terribly bad for you to receive mercury compounds and arsenic and stuff like that. And then there's these coffee enemas, there's loads and loads of strange cases that predate the modern idea of detoxing. And actually, have we come far as a result of it? Well, we know, first of all, that blood and mercury and arsenic, original ideas about them were completely off-piece and completely wrong. But we've reached this stage now where I think we need to find out, if we are going to detox our bodies, what is the best way of doing that? Or how do we help our bodies do the function that they're naturally geared up to do?
Thanks, Dan. Okay, well, it's time we found out a bit more about detoxing and what it actually does to the body and whether we even need it. So I got in touch with a lovely liver expert to ask her expert opinion. So Trish Layla, you're a professor of experimental hepatology at the University of Birmingham, where you're an expert in all things to do with the liver. Welcome to Strange Health.
Hi there, Katie. It's very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
So in this episode, we're looking at detoxing, because at this time of year, people are using like solutions and products and stuff in an attempt to like detox the liver and detox the body and go back on everything that they've done to themselves over Christmas.
All the damage of Christmas, yeah.
Exactly. So let's start with the big question, Trish. Do we actually need to detox?
So actually, probably the honest answer is that your body's really set up to do it by itself. So I'm particularly interested in the liver. That's the organ that I would work on. And the liver is the primary organ in your body which does this so-called detoxing. So essentially eliminating harmful chemicals from your body. It sort of partners up with the kidneys and the intestines as well. So once it's kind of deactivated things, they'll then be excreted through the kidneys or out through poo, essentially. But it's the liver that does that job. So usually I would say that as long as your liver's healthy, then you probably don't need to be investing in these kind of crazy teas and detox type approaches.
Does the liver actually need a reset then after Christmas, or can you?
Well, probably not, to be honest. As long as you've, normally have quite a healthy diet, so you've got plenty of vitamins and antioxidants on board. You're not like me, slightly on the overweight side. Your liver's probably going to be able to deal with most things that you throw at it. Challenges come if there are, it can only deal with so many insults at once. So if you are on perhaps the overweight side, you might have a tendency to store fat in the liver, and that makes it work slightly less efficiently. Also, I hate to say it, but as you age, your liver gets slightly smaller, it gets slightly less good at repairing itself. It's slightly less good at sort of detoxifying things. So you've got to take a little bit more care. You know what it's like. You can't drink like you did when you were young.
I don't know what it's like, Trish.
Yes, no,
I don't know what it's like. There. I've got a massive liver.
There
so
you go.
I'm fine.
So you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of us, mere mortals, I've noticed that I'm sort of less capable as I get older. So I think it's just being careful, isn't it? And being sensible. But generally, the liver is there. Its job is to help you detoxify and process and eliminate materials from the body.
So we're going to do a bit of a quick fire thing about detoxes. So the kind of things that people are doing at this time of year. So what would actually happen then if someone did like these master cleansers, these 3-day juice cleansers?
Yeah.
What do they do to your liver? Are they any good?
Yeah. So in principle, what you're doing is eating probably more good stuff, because a lot of them are fruit juice based or tea based sort of thing. Yeah. So you're eating more good stuff and less bad stuff. So that's going to be good for your liver. You're not eating artificial chemicals, etc. Also, they are predominantly liquid, and quite a lot of the plant ingredients in them are kind of diuretic. So what that means is you're kind of speeding up the process of elimination of waste through your body and through your kidneys. So that's probably quite good. They also tend to be reasonably low calorie, unless there's a lot of fruit juice in them with a lot of sugar in. They're reasonably low calorie. So that will encourage your liver to use up its energy reserves. So in a way, a short term, and you don't want to do them for too long, 2 or 3 day clear out will probably speed up your liver function, speed up your kidney function, and also the fibre in those drinks is quite good for speeding the transit of food and waste actually through your intestine. And also some of them, they've got herbal ingredients, some of which are quite beneficial. So there are some things like turmeric, ginger, those kind of things, which are quite nice. They reduce bloating. They can promote some of the detox functions of the liver. They're quite good. But equally, there are some ingredients in there that are perhaps less well characterized, or maybe there might be impurities and things in them, depending on where you bought it from. So there have been cases where people have done them rather than just the 3 days. Maybe they keep doing them. And then you've seen cases where people have either developed allergies to some of the herbal ingredients, or you can actually get liver toxicity for some of the either contaminants, or some of the herbs aren't supposed to be taken in high doses. So I think as long as you do it as advised and you trust the manufacturer where you bought it from, and it looks like it's fruit juices or teas, whatever, it's probably not going to do any harm in the short term. But the reason it's working is because it's making your body do what it would do anyway, just do it a bit better, I guess.
And another thing, Trish.
I'm loving these faces. What's coming now?
Now I'm thinking about charcoal supplements.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, this idea that they soak up toxins in your liver. Do they really do that? Like,
yes.
Would they do that inside a healthy person?
It's a really interesting idea. I think you hit the nail on the head with the idea of the healthy person, actually. So charcoal, the idea is that it's just it's not like eating burnt toast. It's little tiny particles of charcoal which you swallow, so you ingest. And it just binds material, so it sucks up toxins, and essentially they go all the way through you and you poo them out. So it's a way of taking toxins out of the body, and they are used medically. So in our liver unit, which is literally just outside the window here, patients that have had maybe a drug reaction, that could be a medical drug, not an intentional overdose, or it could be something like a paracetamol or an alcohol overdose. One of the ways you can manage that, if you get to the person quick enough, because you have to do it quite quickly, is you give them these drinks containing carbon, and it'll mop up some of the toxin, and then they hopefully poo it out. There are some really nasty autoimmune liver conditions where the body's own immune system attacks cells in the liver, and they seem to be linked to what's happening in your gut and the toxins that are made by perhaps the microbiome, some of the bacteria in your gut. And so there's a new trial live, I think it's recruiting currently, where they're doing exactly this. So they're giving people these drinks of carbon particles, tiny particles, and the idea is they'll mop up the toxins in the bowel and intestines so that they don't then traffic to the liver and help cause the liver damage. So I think there is something to be said for the idea that carbon particles can mop up toxins. But I think when you said healthy individual, you were absolutely right. I think the average healthy individual probably doesn't need to do that unless they've ingested something which they shouldn't, in which case you should probably be seeing a doctor rather than, drinking a over-the-counter kind of carbon drink sort of thing. Yeah.
So, and then, there's old detox teas, and they said that they flush out impurities.
Yeah.
I mean, what does a detox tea flush?
I guess it's kind of oxidants and kind of the generic toxins we all hear about in the system. I mean, certainly there's lots of evidence, because tea's been used for thousands of years. There's lots of evidence that, black and green tea in particular has got some really nice sort of polyphenols and molecules in them that are really nice antioxidants, but also seem to turn on some of those enzymes I mentioned, that things like those that break down alcohol. There's a whole different isoforms, many of those different types of enzymes. And I think there's really good evidence from lab studies where if you expose cells to the ingredients of tea, they get better at making those enzymes and they get more functional, but also it sort of beefs up how you oxidize fat. So it might actually, if you had a slight tendency to a fatty liver, I think there's a suggestion that maybe some of these teas might help with just beefing up your liver and make it more efficient. Also, they're liquids, so it's going to, they're going to have a diuretic function as well, which is always quite beneficial to sort of, excrete materials in urine, and beef up your kidney function. So I think those teas, again, if they're used as advised, there's probably some evidence that they certainly won't do you any harm, and they might do you a bit of good.
Is there any point where they could be risky?
It depends what's in them. So again, there's always evidence. If you look at, there's some tox resources, which are sort of resources that tell you what the current things are that people are coming in with liver failure for. And there's always a little bit of a signature for some herbal teas. And it's usually when they're not used as advised, they're used for too long or people take too much of it. Then there's active ingredients in there, particularly some of the herbal derived molecules, which can cause liver toxicity in excess. But I think if you're using it as recommended and it's from a reasonably good manufacturer, you're generally all right.
And people the people take like milk thistle, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they take that, or turmeric or, various other things for liver cleansing. Is there any reliable evidence that they work?
Actually, it's really interesting. Those are two molecules, for want of a better word, which are actually, they're used in traditional therapies. And there is a reasonable body of medical evidence that says in people with perhaps liver damage of another kind, maybe viral hepatitis or, alcohol exposure, whatever it is, there's both lab-based evidence and evidence in people that I think it's silymarin, which is the active ingredient of milk thistle. And there's also turmeric I think it's called curcumin, which is an active ingredient. They're plant kind of flavonoid type molecules. And I think they have really good antioxidant function. which is very helpful. But also they're priming the anti-inflammatory functions of your liver, so there is reasonable evidence that they work. The challenge with all of these kind of medications is it's all about the dosing that you use. It's inconsistent between one study and another. So there's no really big grand studies that are really well controlled that can say absolutely, if you give turmeric to people with metabolic liver disease, it's going to have benefit, or it's really good for healthy individuals. But I think there is at least some signatures out there for both of those molecules that says they're having some kind of beneficial effect.
Trish, what do you think about these coffee enemas that influencers are doing to like detox the system?
Yeah, sounds bonkers, doesn't it? There's a couple of grains of potential, kind of interesting biology in there. So firstly, the idea of an enema. I mean, I've certainly seen cases where people have burnt themselves, or they've given themselves infections, or they've perforated themselves, so trying to self-administer. So advice number one is don't do this to yourself, kids. But actually, that route of giving a medication, your intestines, your colon is quite well supplied with blood. So it's a really good way to get something absorbed and into your bloodstream. That's why they give medicines as suppositories and things sometimes. So that route is good because it goes straight into the blood supply, which delivers immediately to the liver. So anything that you absorb through that route is going to make it to the liver quickly, which is good. And then there's also evidence that actually coffee, so its ingredients, things like caffeine, but also it's got some of these kind of theobromines and things in it as well. There is quite a lot of evidence now, or accumulating evidence, that it does have some beneficial effects actually. So the liver particularly, so it looks like it might be anti-inflammatory. It looks like there's a bit of a signature for it helping with fibrosis, so that scarring of the liver. So there's some evidence that it has benefit in that place. And also when you're looking at these things called meta-analysis, which is where somebody compares the evidence from hundreds of clinical studies. And caffeine is one of those things where people have done these meta-analyses and looked at whether it has benefit. And it seems to be in moderate doses, so maybe a couple of cups a day. There's benefits in all causes mortality. So people who drink coffee do a bit better. But also if you break it down into disease type, it does seem to have a bit of a signature in liver disease. And also possibly some other, maybe cancer as well, some cancers. So it looks like a certain amount of coffee certainly isn't going to do you any harm and maybe doing you some good. The challenge comes if you drink a lot. So scientific conferences, we just drink coffee all day and everybody's mad by the end of it. So it does cause hypertension. So it can be a bit challenging to your cardiovascular system. So I think there's some signatures that too much coffee, however you have it, whichever route, is probably not a great thing. And I think, it's the usual story, pregnant women, etc., need to be a bit careful. So I'm not sure I buy into the idea of sticking it where the sun doesn't shine, as it were. But I think, there's a reasonable amount of evidence that a little bit of coffee probably is not a bad thing.
Right, I'm glad we've cleared that one up.
Don't do it yourself. Yeah, whatever happens, don't do it yourself. Yeah.
Oh, perforation.
Oh, yes.
So, are there any over-the-counter products that improve liver function in healthy people, or is this whole kind of detox thing, is it just fundamentally flawed?
Sure. I mean, the kind of boring but probably true answer is that if you have a healthy diet and you're minimizing your exposure to toxins and you're drinking plenty and you're having plenty of fiber, that's probably all your liver needs if you're a healthy individual. But that's boring. So based on what my colleagues are doing medically, there's a couple of things that look like they're quite interesting. And I think they are in some of these over-the-counter products. So there's a couple of vitamins. So vitamin E, which obviously you can ingest through your diet, but you can take as a supplement. There's some really nice evidence now in human studies of people with this metabolic liver disease. So this is associated with kind of cardiovascular disease, obesity, where you store fat in the liver and you start to get liver damage. It looks like people who they give vitamin E either on its own or as an adjunct to other therapies. It does look like the kind of antioxidant capacity of vitamin E is quite protective. So vitamin E isn't bad. And then the other one, which is great at this time of year, is vitamin D. So, you can make that yourself if you go out in the sun. If you're pasty like me, you avoid the sun. So that's about the only thing I take is vitamin D, because it's really good at sort of improving the function of your immune system. But the reason it's interesting in the context of liver disease is, again, my colleagues who treat these patients with these autoimmune liver conditions, but also things like viral liver diseases, various, inflammatory liver conditions, there's been some really nice trials where they've given high dose vitamin D and it's really had benefit in those individuals. The other thing is there is some antioxidants. You would get them in, plant foods, fruits, etc. But patients, again, who come into the liver unit perhaps with a drug overdose, they are sometimes given something called N-acetylcysteine. So that it's a precursor, almost like an amino acid molecule, which makes glutathione in the liver. And glutathione is a really important antioxidant that can protect your liver function. And I've certainly seen cases where you can see these over-the-counter liver kind of things, which have either N-acetylcysteine in them as an actual molecule, or they have cysteine in them, which is the precursor for that. So I think those are possibly quite interesting as well. Again, probably more if you think you've got liver injury rather than a healthy liver, but that might be something that could have benefit. But again, it's in meat, it's in eggs. So, there are ways that you can generate that just through a healthy diet.
And so if somebody's, going on like a stag weekend, or, they drink really heavily every weekend, and then, they do a bit of a detox at the start of the week, does that offer the liver any real protection, or are they still playing with fire?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? I mean, the liver is amazing. It's probably the only organ that can regenerate itself completely. So it's really cool in situations like this, a big transplant unit here in Birmingham. And so you can almost do a bit like when a parent donates a kidney to a child, you can do something called a split liver transplant, where say a mum will donate a portion of her liver to a child, and in the mum, her own liver will regenerate itself back to its normal size. So the liver is quite good at fixing itself. The challenge comes when the injury, so the booze or, whatever it is repeated and constant over a long time, and also as you age. So your liver gets less able to repair itself. So I think if you're constantly drinking and you're not giving your liver a chance to regenerate, that's bad. But also if you're slightly older, you're less able to regenerate anyway if you keep drinking. So usually the advice, I enjoy a drink as much as the next person, but usually the advice is, by all means, have a drink within the limits that are recommended by the government, because they're put there for a reason, but also try and dilute the alcohol, have a few drinks of water or whatever in between, and give yourself some days off to let the liver regenerate. So don't drink every day, have a few days off in between.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating, Trish. I'm still quite concerned by the idea of, enemas perforating the colon.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked.
I don't think I'm ever going to lose that visual that you've created.
Well,
but anyway, thank you.
It's putting you off, so that's good.
I'm not planning on it,
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. It's not one of my ambitions.
Yeah.
But thank you very, very much. That was really brilliant. Really, really interesting. Thank you so much, Trish.
That's great. It's lovely to meet you. Lovely to talk to you.
So Trish was brill. She told us loads of really good stuff about how your body works, about detoxing, about, charcoal supplements, which actually sound really quite interesting. So what, if you wanted to support your body's natural detoxing, then Dan, what does that realistically look like?
Well, I think that Trish sort of hit the nail on the head with it, really, because the liver, which is her main specialist interest, is number one. It is the number one detox organ, comes equipped with, as I said, 500 individual functions, and it's performing a 24/7 role in your body in detoxifying, removing products of metabolic waste. So it's remembering, I think, that liver is number one. And how do we best take care of our livers? We give them the time and the ability to do the job that they do so well. So hydration is one thing, making sure that we're well hydrated, and also considering as well as alongside your liver and working alongside your liver and sort of beavering away very well are your kidneys, and making sure that we're treating these organs kindly, so we're not overloading them with alcohol, and making sure as well that we're taking into effect the important role that they also play in order with the gut. So one of the main things that I think that we've talked about in a little bit of detail is fiber, making sure that there's the right amount of fiber in your body and in your diet, because it helps to bind waste in the gut, it helps to the body to excrete toxins, and it helps the gut to do that more effectively through our stools.
But one thing then is that I've seen, I was telling you earlier about me doing a detox, and I just got a banging headache from it. And I've seen loads of stuff on social media that says, if you get sort of colds or flu, that's like that's your body detoxing itself, and almost that it's normal to feel crap while you're on a detox, because that's called a healing crisis. They're having a detox healing crisis. What is that? Is it the case that if you're supporting your liver and your kidneys, that you should actually feel quite rubbish?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, really, because I think that, naturally when we get flus and viruses and other bits like that, we do feel awful. We feel fatigued, we feel headachy, and it's the product of inflammation in our bodies, that when you get a virus or you get an infection of some sort, your body has a natural response to it and it's fighting the infection. That's what makes us feel awful. When we're talking about natural forms of detox, and we're talking about the body's form of response to whatever's being thrown at it. And sometimes naturally these products that are marketed for detoxing are trying to exude or get rid of toxins from the body by the best ways that can be thought of as being marketable. That be either through your urine or indeed through your poo. Some of them naturally have laxative effects, which can clear your stool from your gut and can clear urine from your urinary tract. And in doing so, that can make you dehydrated and it can make you feel very, very unwell. So in reality, people usually feel unwell because they're undereating, dehydrated, withdrawing from caffeine or alcohol, or reacting to the laxatives within detox products. So if a detox makes you feel worse, that's a warning sign, really. It's not a victory lap.
Well, that's it for today's episode. And we've learned that your liver's already, it's working full time at getting rid of toxins from your body. It does not need any encouragement from a sachet or from a foot patch. And real detox, as we heard from Trish, it's got doctors and monitors and consent forms. If yours has got a discount code, then be sceptical. Huge thanks to Professor Trish Layla from the University of Birmingham for explaining detox so well without actually trying to flog us something.
And if you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, share it with a friend who has a mysterious pain in their side, and leave us a review so that we know what you want more of.
And we want to hear from you. So if you've got a health question, and it doesn't matter how strange it is, in fact, the stranger the better, or if you've seen something online and you think, that can't be right, then email us at strangehealth@theconversation.com. That's Strange Health, it's all one word, and it's at theconversation.com. Strange Health is produced by Gemma Ware, with editing and mixing for this episode by Sikandar Khan. Alistair Tibbett and Alice Mason look after our socials and the promotion. And remember, if a product promises to detox you, but it can't explain how, then it's probably your wallet that's about to be cleansed and not your liver. Catch you next time on Strange Health.